I've got bad news. Which would you like first? You choose. I want the bad news first. Get it out of the way.
I want the good news first.
There seems to be some indecision. The good news, you've already heard this morning. How I choose to think creates my personal experience. Why is that good news? You're in charge. You choose. We like that when things go the way we want them to go, don't we? Right? Yeah. It's like, I'm a powerful manifester. Look what I made. The bad news is, everybody say it with me, how I choose creates my personal experience. Why is that bad news? Well, look, hey, we're in science of mind, so we know there's no good and bad except our choosing, right? But the bad news can be if, with ultimate responsibility of choice, comes ultimate responsibility for what we're calling forth. And when we then have a personal experience that doesn't turn out the way we want it to, that doesn't feel good, then we immediately go to the place where we say, I need to change my thinking really fast because something's wrong here. I need to change it right now. And that is a very fundamental idea in science of mind, that how I choose to think creates my personal experience. It is also a place where many of us get stuck. It's a place where many of us are frustrated, maybe confused, because things aren't turning out quite the way we want to every single moment. So when things don't turn out the way that we want them to in this moment, then we go to this place, especially if they're extremely uncomfortable, where we either decide that we don't follow this teaching, this stuff is crap, it's not working for me, or we stay in this teaching and we go to a place of self-judgment, self-recrimination, disappointment, blame, shame, all of those hurts that we do to each other. We do them to ourselves. So, here's what we say to ourselves when we stay in this teaching and we go to the self-blame and criticism. Here's what that sounds like. I chose the wrong job. I chose the wrong partner. I chose the wrong house or neighborhood or city or country. Some people think that. Or we go to a very deep place where we say, I chose the wrong genetics. We talk about choosing the wrong disease. I chose my cancer. I chose my abuse. So when our circumstances don't line up with what we want them to be, and we're in this teaching, we then say, we created those circumstances by our choosing, by our thinking. And we can also do it to others. We can get very spiritually arrogant, and we can sit by the bedside of someone who is suffering, and we can say, what's wrong with your thinking? That's not really helpful, is it? No, it's not. So I want you to take a moment, and I want you to think about that statement. How I choose to think about my personal experience. What's my personal experience? Where does the personal experience happen? Does it happen out here? No, it happens in here. How I choose to think creates my personal experience. What that means is that I can choose to be happy, joyous, and free, regardless of my circumstances. Happy, joyous, and free, regardless of my circumstances, because I'm not changing the circumstances. I'm changing my personal experience of the circumstances. Then the circumstances can change. Only after I change my personal experience of them. We choose first. We go first, not the circumstances. Our happiness is not defined by our circumstances. No matter how painful, how frightening, how frustrating they may be, I can still choose to be happy. That's the ninja move. If you're watching Raymond Anderson, that was for you. He did that during Vista, and I was so impressed. I practiced all week long. So remember, back in February, when we talked about being unstoppable, I had several of you stop me in the restroom and say, "Are there buttons?" No, there's no buttons. You got your buttons. You'll like it. But the idea of being unstoppable, when I talked to you about that moment of choice, when I was on the fire walk and I had to ask myself, standing on the edge of the fire, is this mine to do? My choice to walk on fire did not alter the fact that there was a fire. That was my circumstance. So, did I have what it took to walk on fire? My answer was yes. Why? Because I chose to. My choosing is what made me capable of it. It didn't change the circumstance of the fire. So when I choose something, something happens first. I see myself doing it. I see myself walking across the fire in my mind before I do it. I imagine what it'll feel like. I envision the experience. That is mentally embodying my choice before I take action. It is necessary. We all do it every time we make a choice. So, if I want to walk on fire, I have to choose to be the person who walks on fire. Let me give you another example. If I want to be a woman who is treated equally with respect, I have to be and embody respect. I have to be respectful of myself. I have to be respectful of others. I have to treat them equally. Even those people that I think are disrespecting me. Now, I did not say be their doormat. I said be respectful. Same thing with abundance. Jean's going to be teaching us about some abundance. But if I want to have an abundant life, I have to be in abundance with what I have right here, right now. No matter how I might judge it as small or insignificant, if I want to be in abundance, if I want to live in abundance, if I want to attract abundance, I have to already embody abundance. Not because of my circumstances, but in spite of my current circumstances. I get to choose. My choices are going to bear fruit to the degree, we've all heard this, to the degree, right? That I live into my choice in the moment consistently. All right? Transformation doesn't happen by choosing abundance for this little nanosecond and then going right back to worrying and fretting over my dire financial situation. It happens by living in it consistently. Right here, right now. I also can't do that fire walk and walk out into the fire. For those of you that were here, you understand how the fire walk works. Standing on the coals, get afraid of the fire and stop and start looking down at the coals and the embers, and you know that when you stop, you sink down into the embers and you're going to get burned. So I can't do that. I can't stop and get all caught up in the fire without getting burned. I have to keep walking and kicking. I'll do that one more time. Maybe the other side. You see, it's about me. It's about my choices. It's not about them. Whoever they may be, whatever situation it might be, that I am resisting, blaming, fighting against. It's not the situation. It's not the fire. It's not the loneliness, the scarcity. It's none of that. It's me and my choices. I am a divine expression. I am an expression of the divine. And I get to choose. Am I going to live a wide open, transformational life? Or am I going to turn over my power to another person, another situation, and am I going to then play the victim? Before you answer that, there's a couple of things I want you to think about, things I want you to know, so that you're going into this decision fully armed, fully loaded. Here's the first thing. If you choose not to live your wide open transformational life and you're going to be in the victim role, things will happen. There will be discomfort. There will be chaos. There will be pain. But it won't be your fault. So keep that in mind. You're blame-free. You're off the hook. The second thing that I want you to think about is if you do choose to lead this wide open, transformational life, there will also be discomfort, uncertainty, pain, chaos, right along with the fulfillment, the joy, the wonder. All of those things will occur. So if you want to be a victim and you think that that's for you, I will give you the perfect script so that you can play it at any time. You ready? Here's what it sounds like. If they would only, then I would be okay. You want some examples? If they would only listen to me, then I could be okay. If they would only pay me more, then I would be okay. If only my parents hadn't messed me up so bad, I could be okay. If he hadn't cheated on me, I could be okay. If she would just stop drinking, I could be okay. If I just had my health, I could be okay. Dear heart, you're already okay. You are eternally okay. You have never, ever, ever not been okay. There is no one you need to fight today in order to gain your divinity. Your divinity is forever within you. You only need to name it and claim it. You get to choose. And this was, for me, one of the most difficult ideas in science of mind. Why would that be difficult? It sounds juicy, right? Well, when I dug into it, and we're going to go really deep, really fast. You ready for this? All right. So when I first dug into it, and I said, well, here's this beautiful idea. I get to choose my reality. But what about those who suffer? What about the Holocaust? What about rape and murder? What about terrorism? What about the children that are born into poverty-stricken countries and war zones, who are born ill, who never even get to live? Surely they didn't choose this. So maybe this choosing thing's a little tougher. When do we develop this opportunity to choose? When we're infants? I go back to the children in the war-torn countries. So when? When we're 14? When do we suddenly get to choose? And I kept digging, and Ernest Holmes says this in Science of Mind. Every day, every moment, every second, there is a choice. If it were not so, he says, we would not be individuals. He's not giving me an out. So I stayed with this teaching, and I kept asking that question. And I did get my answer. Here's what I know. When I say that when I change my thinking, I change my personal experience, how I choose to think changes my personal experience. It does not mean, now this is a key idea, in this field of infinite possibilities, all choices are available to me all the time. I'm going to say that again, because this is a big deal. We believe in infinite possibilities. But when I make a choice, the rest of the choices I did not make fall away. And the matrix rearranges itself around the choice I made. Let me explain that. All right. So I was born. Given? All right. I did not choose that. Okay? Or at least I can't choose it now. The ship's already sailed. I was born to the parents I was born to at the time I was born in the place I was born. Those choices, my darlings, have been made. And we can suppose, as many of us do, I happen to subscribe to this, that there are soul contracts that are made in other realms with one another, one mind, with the universe. But again, those choices have already been made. I cannot re-choose them right now, in this lifetime. So while I'm living, though, in this lifetime, I do get to choose going forward. And with each choice, with the history that I'm given, with the DNA I've been given, with the culture I've been given, with the environment I've been given, I get to make a choice. And each choice creates a consequence, a fresh consequence, that becomes an opportunity to make the next choice, and the next choice, and the next choice. And there are places where we did not have a choice. But we always have a choice. Does that make sense? And there's also places where we choose by default, where we choose not to choose, which is a choice. I think I might have overheard that in the Power of Decision class earlier this week. Just maybe. Because it's so fundamental to this teaching that we are always at choice. You can't dodge it. You can't sidestep it. You can't escape it. You're going to make a choice. One way or another, you're going to choose. And, denial, avoidance, exhaustion, they can make us choose by default, unconsciously. Here's a little reading from Notes from the Universe that I got in a very timely fashion. I think many of you do get Notes from the Universe in your inbox from one of my spiritual heroes, Mike Dooley. He says, "You can choose to go, do, be, and have, and in the end, you'll exclaim, shocked and bewildered, that because of all the synchronicities in your life, all the clicks and the coincidences and the many happy accidents, your bounty and good fortune must have been your destiny." Or you might choose to wait for a miracle, a savior, or a divine intervention. And in the end, you'll exclaim, shocked and bewildered, that because of all the synchronicities of your life and all the missed choices and disappointments and the many unhappy accidents, your lack and misfortune must have been your destiny. He goes on to say, "Stacey, do you see what the difference is? It ain't me, the universe." I love his signatures. So whatever crossroads we find ourselves in, whatever hallway we may find ourselves in, the choice to stay there or not is ours. We will quite probably be uncomfortable, which is that thing that we hate most. We much prefer sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, don't we? We want happily ever after right now. But discomfort means growth. So what will you choose? If you're not sure in that hallway what choice to make, I invite you to try using your intuition. Just wrapped up a class this week on intuition. The voice of God within. It's always talking to us. We all have it. It's nudging us. Sometimes it's hitting us upside the head when we don't listen. But it's there. What most people in that class came into the class wanting to know is, how can I trust my intuition more? How can I connect with it better? And I've got one answer. You get the Cliff Notes version of the class. Practice. Be willing to listen to the voice that you think is your intuition and risk following it. But see, we don't want to do that because we don't want to be uncomfortable. We want to be 100% right all of the time. And there's this little myth that we have going on in our heads that says our intuition will never, ever give us anything but sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. Dear heart, sometimes our intuition is going to take us to a place that's a little uncomfortable because that is where our lessons are. It's not always sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. You know, we like to cherry pick our teachings a little bit. So when Jesus said, "The poor will always be with you," we don't like that teaching. When Buddha said, "The first noble truth is that life has pain and suffering," not that teaching. Not that one. But remember, even though there is suffering, even though there is poverty, we still get to choose to be happy, regardless of our circumstances. Ninja kick to that side. Raymond, you've started something. This month has been all about infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities. We are constantly choosing. The question isn't whether we're choosing, it's whether we're choosing consciously. The question is about, am I going to lead this transformational, wide open life? And then, can I trust that what happens is exactly what's supposed to happen? And then make my next choice. And then the next choice. And then the next choice. So what will you choose? The answer is within you. The answer is divine. The answer is you. You are your answer. You choose. Choose you. Thank you.